Zog had one objective: to document every bizarre, hair-raising, mind-boggling human trait in the galaxy for the Galactic Hitchhiker's Guide to Humanity. He wasn't a hero, a warrior, or even particularly brave. He was a researcher for the Galactic Coalition's Department of Species Studies, and in his humble, if slightly overconfident opinion, the guide would finally make him famous. After all, who else could truly capture the mystique of these fearsome humans? Of course, fearsome was a bit of a loose term here. The more appropriate word would be unpredictable. And that, to Zog, was exactly the problem. Just as he adjusted his travel pack, Zog's communicator buzzed with a new message from Coalition HQ. Zog, find out why humans keep running toward explosions. HQ out. Right, running toward explosions, he muttered, double-checking his equipment. Humans, I swear. He sighed, recalling the alien rumor mill. Apparently, humans could eat fire and throw mountains. One report even suggested they could turn invisible, though he later discovered this was simply the curious phenomenon of clothing. Yes, indeed, documenting humans would be his ultimate professional challenge. He hailed his transport and prepared for the day's journey to a place known as Earth Outpost 37, a curious planet where humans resided in close proximity to other alien species. Surely here, he could finally get to the bottom of all these ridiculous rumors and shed some light on humanity for once and all. Zog was barely halfway to Outpost 37 when his guide arrived. Dave, a local human outfitted with too many devices that beeped, whirred, and occasionally buzzed for no apparent reason. "Welcome, Zog, is it?" Dave said, extending a hand. Zog stared at it suspiciously, wondering if this was some human attempt at hypnosis. After a moment, he mimicked the movement, clasping Dave's hand awkwardly. "Your people are fascinating," Zog began, adjusting his recorder. "For instance, Coalition HQ has received several reports that humans habitually run toward explosions." Dave gave a lopsided grin. "You could say that. Explosions, danger, chaos, anything that might kill us, really." "Why?" Zog's disbelief was evident. "Well, sometimes it's curiosity, other times it's the job, and sometimes it's just for fun." Dave shrugged, as if this answer explained everything. "You're looking at a species that invented bungee jumping, after all." "Bungee? What?" "Oh, you'll love this," Dave said, guiding Zog into the bustling outpost. "So, humans invented this thing where you jump off a really high place with just a stretchy rope attached to your ankles. Then you scream your head off and hope it doesn't snap. And voila, you're alive, probably with an adrenaline rush. That's why we chase explosions." Zog's recording device hummed as it absorbed this information. "So, humans voluntarily throw themselves off high structures for pleasure?" "Yup," Dave confirmed with an air of satisfaction. "And if we're not jumping, we're inventing some kind of extreme sport. Ever heard of parkour or shark diving?" Zog's eyes widened. "You swim with apex predators?" "Absolutely," Dave said proudly. "It's all about respect, really. You don't bother them, they don't bother you, usually." He shrugged. As the day progressed, Zog found himself overwhelmed by the sheer number of activities that, according to Dave, were extreme in nature. Humans seemed to actively seek out situations that could, by all accounts, end their lives prematurely. From riding colossal waves to scaling treacherous mountains, they seemed to have no limit to the lengths they'd go to, all for a little thrill. At one point, Zog's translator started acting up. The words insanity and bravery seemed to blend into a single indistinguishable concept whenever Dave spoke. "So, you call all of this bravery?" Zog asked, attempting to clarify. Dave tilted his head thoughtfully. "Well, bravery, stupidity, they're kind of cousins. But yeah, there's a thin line. We're just wired for it, I guess." "Fascinating. And what drives this need? Survival, perhaps?" Dave chuckled. "Well, maybe in the beginning, but now it's mostly about proving something to ourselves. We like to push limits, test boundaries, face our fears, and then, when we survive, we get to say, "I did it." Zog scribbled down notes furiously, realizing that perhaps his definitive guide might need a glossary, particularly for terms like bravery, adrenaline, and surviving sharks. He paused, looking up at Dave with newfound intrigue. "You mentioned, what was it? Parkour." "Oh, parkour's simple," Dave grinned, leading Zog to an outdoor plaza filled with humans leaping from wall to wall, vaulting over benches, and clambering up railings like deranged animals. "It's just humans using the environment as an obstacle course, sometimes mid-chase. The Coalition report probably said we're strangely agile or something." "Yes, that exact wording," Zog muttered, watching a human leap from one rooftop to another with alarming ease. "Doesn't all of this seem a bit reckless?" "Reckless is kind of our style," Dave replied with a grin. "But hey, it's a lot more fun than staying on the ground." As the sun dipped lower over Outpost 37, Zog's list of bizarre human behaviors was growing at an alarming rate. He hadn't even gotten through half of it, and already he was wondering if perhaps the entire galaxy had underestimated humanity in the most baffling way possible. "So," Zog began, his voice a mix of fascination and exhaustion, "I'm beginning to sense a theme here. Humans enjoy risks, but what I don't understand is why it's considered heroic. Isn't it just survival?" "Oh, that's a good one," Dave laughed, hands resting on his hips. "Survival? Sometimes. But see, real heroism is when we do something risky for someone else, especially if there's danger involved. Like if I jump in front of a blaster to save someone." Zog's eyes went wide. "But that's incredibly dangerous." "Exactly," Dave beamed as if this were the most obvious fact in the galaxy. "But that's why it's heroic. Heroism is choosing the danger willingly, especially for the sake of others." Zog fumbled to capture the logic of it. "So, heroism is when a human chooses a potentially fatal act to help another." "Yeah," Dave replied, clearly proud. "Humans are big on this thing called self-sacrifice. There's a whole industry back home that makes hero movies just to show this kind of stuff. Like, well, there was that one about an explorer who sacrifices everything to save his crew from a giant space worm. Good flick." "A giant worm?" Zog's pen stopped mid-scratch. "Yeah, like 10 meters wide. That guy went right into the worm's mouth to save his team." "Absolutely absurd," Zog muttered, but he couldn't help being intrigued. He tilted his head thoughtfully. "Do you have heroes here? At Outpost 37? "Oh yeah, we've got plenty of them. You've already met one of our wildest." Dave gestured toward a stocky human in a worn uniform standing near a hover cart full of supplies, cheerfully chatting with another alien. "Who's that?" Zog asked. "Sergeant Lola. There's a rumor she once disarmed an entire pirate ship single-handedly after being marooned on an asteroid." Zog blinked. Marooned, and yet she lived. "Oh, she thrived," Dave said, pride swelling in his voice. "Apparently, she'd used the ship's own weapons against the pirates, managed to commandeer the vessel, and brought back a hull full of loot. She's a legend around here." Zog approached Sergeant Lola cautiously, his heart thudding with equal parts curiosity and caution. If this was what a human hero looked like, he couldn't pass up the chance to understand her strange allure. "Excuse me, Sergeant Lola," he began, attempting to match her gaze, which was sharp and steady. "Yeah," she replied, one eyebrow cocked, clearly sizing him up. "I'm with the Galactic Coalition, here to research human culture, especially your unique philosophies on risk and danger. Could I trouble you with a few questions?" Lola grinned, as though Zog had asked her if the sky was full of stars. "Only if you keep up. We've got a supply drop to make on the far side of the outpost." With a quick nod, Zog scurried after her. She moved with the kind of confidence he'd come to expect from these humans, as if every step were a dance with gravity and balance, designed only to test her limits. As they walked, Zog scrambled to keep pace, his recorder whirring. "So," he ventured, "I've heard you subdued an entire pirate crew on your own." Lola laughed, a sound as bold and brash as the woman herself. "On my own?" "Pfft, not exactly. I just had to be creative. Humans do that sometimes." Zog's eyes widened. "By creative, do you mean violent?" She gave him a mock-serious look. "Violent? Nah, I call it problem-solving. And problem-solving involves taking risks." "Oh, all the time," she replied, kicking open a door with her boot. "Sometimes you have to throw yourself right into the heart of the chaos to solve a problem. If you're too careful, you might miss your chance." Zog scribbled frantically. He was beginning to see that humans had a way of romanticizing their risks, almost celebrating them. But why? What about other species who preferred safety? The answer to Zog's question came sooner than expected. As they reached the outer limits of the outpost, a sudden commotion broke out over the comms. Static crackled, and then a frantic voice called, "Base, we've got a situation. Squad B is trapped on Ridge 4 with hostile life forms closing in. We need backup." Sergeant Lola didn't hesitate. "Sounds like we've got a job. You up for it, Zog?" Zog's eyes widened. "Me? Yeah, you're here to learn about us, right?" She handed him a helmet with a playful smirk. "Consider this a front-row seat." Zog swallowed hard but nodded, fumbling with the helmet as he followed Lola toward a nearby transport. It seemed that he was about to witness human bravery firsthand, and maybe even understand their baffling obsession with danger. The transport shot off toward Ridge 4, and as they drew closer, Zog could see a group of humans huddled together, trying to fend off a swarm of creatures with blinding blue eyes and razor-sharp talons. "Okay, listen up," Lola barked, leaping out of the transport as it landed. "We'll draw their attention, create a distraction, and you'll go in and get the squad out." "Wait!" Zog's heart was racing. "Isn't there a safer way to do this?" Lola shot him a grin. "Where's the fun in that?" Without another word, she charged toward the creatures, waving her arms and yelling loudly to draw their attention. Zog watched in awe as the creatures immediately focused on her, giving the squad just enough time to slip past and reach the transport. Zog scrambled after them, his heart pounding as he barely avoided a swipe from one of the creatures. He caught up with Lola, who laughed as they clambered into the transport. "See, Zog, that's how we do things around here." As they soared back toward the outpost, Zog's head spun. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and strangely admirable. He'd witnessed humans taking risks that no other species would consider, all in the name of protecting one another. "You do this sort of thing often?" he asked, breathless. "All the time," Lola replied, shrugging. "It's part of who we are. Danger, chaos, it's where we thrive. There's no time to overthink things when lives are on the line." Zog's pen scribbled furiously, capturing every detail. It wasn't just risk that humans valued. It was the willingness to face it for the sake of others. They didn't just fearlessly pursue their own survival. They championed one another's. This was the real heart of humanity's bravery, not just in facing danger, but in choosing to do so, especially when others needed them. Back at HQ, Zog knew he'd finally captured a glimpse of the legendary human courage that the Coalition had heard so much about. His guide would surely be a bestseller, though he doubted words could ever fully capture the chaotic, reckless, and truly heroic spirit of humanity.